I didn't think the day would come, but I've joined the dark side after being loyal for 14 years.
Hey everyone, yours truly, Diabetic Cycling. Today I have my mechanic Jeff from VeloFix out here in the neighborhood with his van parked out in front of my place. We are working on something, so I'm going to cut over to Jeff working on my bike. We'll see what is up. So Jeff, what are we working on today?
We're just doing a 12-speed Di2 conversion, and we're running some hydraulic lines right now on this integrated steer.
Did you have a lot of fun working on that front end?
It wasn't bad.
Hello everyone, how are you? This is yours truly, Diabetic Cycling, coming at you once again. This is a channel brought to you by and sponsored by none other than my own damn wallet. So if unbiased thoughts and opinions and just a perspective from a normal dude that you're gonna drop on your next group ride, if that's your sort of thing, please do me a favor, click the subscribe button, the bell notification. Obviously, give me a like and drop me a comment, as those things really help this channel grow. Also helps me to know that there is somebody else on the other side of this camera lens, that I'm not just talking to ether. All right, so where do I begin? So since about year 2008 or so, I've been very loyal, and I've been riding my road bikes, various road bikes, that have been outfitted with SRAM components. So the drivetrain, I've ran the SRAM Red, I've ran SRAM Force, I've run the SRAM Rival, I've run Double Tab, I've run E-Tab, and most recently I've also got bikes that are running SRAM E-Tab Access 12-speed. And the reasons why I was stuck to SRAM, I think, mainly also come from what I didn't like about the Shimano counterparts that drove me to SRAM. And like one of those things that drove me to SRAM would be ergonomically, the Shimano levers just didn't feel right in my hands. I always felt the hoods were a little long, hoods are a little wide. You know, my hands are not large. I wear medium-sized gloves, and I feel that the hoods are just too big, and I couldn't ever find comfort. So that's one of the things, ergonomics. Secondly, I shied away from Shimano stuff because I have this big old mental block in my head where the brake levers, the ones that you squeeze to bring your bike to a stop, the brake levers had to go side to side for shifting, right? So on the right hand side, when you shift inward, that would make the rear to go to easier gear, right? Yeah. You see how I'm struggling already? And then on the left, you would swing the lever to the side, and that would actually bring it to the larger chain ring, making it harder ring to spin. So easier, harder. That was, I just couldn't get it right. Of course, you know, if I sit on a bike with that drivetrain, you know, I eventually get used to it. First 5 minutes, after that, it's all good. However, it just didn't quite gel with me. So SRAM, it was double tap system, super easy. You know, the brake lever stayed where they are. Everything was done via the buttons. So Perfect. So that's how I've been on SRAM drivetrains for 14 years. So in case those of you haven't seen it, I have an Orbea Orca, which I'll link right here, that originally came out of the factory with Ultegra 11-speed non-Di2 hydraulic brake drivetrain. So that bike, I had a chance to go ahead and strip all that out. I've sold the parts and put on the new 12-speed Ultegra, but this time Di2. And quite honestly, I'm gonna tell you, it rocked my world. To a point where I have a couple more projects for this year in terms of bikes, and I've made changes so that those bikes will now come with Shimano Ultegra 12-speed Di2 instead of what I originally equipped with, which would be SRAM Force Access 12-speed. First and foremost, I'm not going to sit here and tell you how one system is better than the other. Ultimately, it's going to come down to your personal preferences. Some things in Shimano that you value more, some things on SRAM system that you value more. You know, all those things will appeal to different crowd, different things float different people's vote. So I can't quite say one is better than the other, but I am going to share with you my findings, why I've decided to embrace the Shimano Di2 12-speed system. And at the same time, I'm going to also share with you some of the things that I'm not still quite sold on. First, the ergonomics of the hood and the shifter levers and everything, which was the biggest stumbling block for me to ride Shimano in the past. The new stuff, the Di2 8100 and also Dura Ace 9200 series, the new stuff on the 12-speed stuff, the hoods are definitely narrower, slimmer, and they feel 100% better in my hands. And the little horns where the hydraulic reservoirs reside, as well as the double cell batteries, the upper horns are also slimmer and they also point slightly inward. So when you are when you're on the hoods, you could wrap your hands around the levers and the hoods just much better. It's just ergonomically a lot more friendly. So that was an immediate improvement. I felt like, okay, I can now comfortably be on the hoods and not feel like I'm like reaching or holding on to something larger that are designed to not fit my hands. And the way the horns, for the lack of better terms, the way they sort of curve slightly inward, also like remind me of like a Campy shifters. I don't know if Campy still come that way, but they also had this little bit of an inward going like this. So I also try to show with the B-roll. So that was immense difference. Secondly, the aforementioned the brake levers, how they went side to side on previous generation of Shimano stuff. So that's obviously no longer with the Di2, because you could do everything via the actual buttons. Brake levers, they just squeeze inward and stopping the bike. They don't do this side to side business. So that I was able to overcome my mental block on that. So there's going to be some pros and cons about the third thing, which is the battery. So with the Di2 battery the way it is, I will never be able to leave home without a battery still left in the charger in my garage like I used to do with the SRAM ETAP batteries and Access batteries, because evidently I would leave the battery on the charger the night before, and then come Saturday morning, I'm rushing out of the house and I leave the stupid battery on the charger. I get to my destination to ride with my homies, and what do I find? I got no battery. So with the Di2, obviously you wouldn't have that problem because it's just sort of embedded into the bike. And then another pro would be that a single full charge does last you longer than a full charge of a SRAM battery. So some of the things I'm still not sold on entirely would be the way you have to charge via the the rear derailleur. So unlike the SRAM access or the ETAP stuff, the battery, you need to charge with a proprietary cable, mind you, through the rear derailleurs, which I don't know, is it that big of a deal? It's not really, but you know, I think it could have been done a little bit more elegantly. The way SRAM does it, also good and bad, because it's good because, you know, you could just pop the battery out, put it on the charger, pop the battery back in, great. But also it could lead to the type of thing I explained earlier, where I'm just leaving the battery on the charger and leaving without the stupid thing to a ride. So, you know, having to charge via a proprietary cable through the rear derailleur, big pain in the ass. And to kind of a pile on the battery situation. Now, I don't know if you have, but I've been on countless rides where my homies, my riding buddies, inevitably run out of the charge on Di2 battery, effectively left with one single gear basically for the rest of their ride. And that just is a big pain in the butt. And of course, you could prevent that, and diligent guys would be able to prevent it, but there will be evidently a lazy guy or someone who's just not paying attention to his own thing, where you show up to a ride and you run out of the battery mid-ride, and you know, you're screwed. Of course, if it's a 10-mile ride, maybe it's not a big deal, but on these type of long rides that I go out with my friends, 100 miles and whatever, out in the boonies, you run out at mile 40, you're kind of screwed. So in conclusion, overall, when looking at the group sets as a whole, SRAM group set, Shimano group set, I still maintain a position that one isn't better than the other. There are bits that Shimano has done better. There are bits that SRAM has done better. Consequently, someone may say how shifting is better on one than the other, but I really can't say that, because that's really going to come to personal, like, a preference. You know, just because one guy thinks Shimano shifts better, another guy can easily say, no, I like the way SRAM shifts better. So that, I don't think, it's not quantifiable. So that's not really something that I could tell you, because it's not quantifiably measurable. However, I could probably safely say, again, it comes down to one's opinion, but I could probably safely say braking is better on Shimano. Now, that does not mean I feel that braking power is better on Shimano. I believe they actually have the same amount of braking power, but it's how you get there. There's a difference. I definitely feel that there's better modulation on Shimano brakes versus SRAM brakes. SRAM, it's like you start squeezing, and then you're gonna get to the full stop without like all the middle modulation. So you kind of go from here, and all of a sudden your stopping power is like that. Whereas Shimano, you can definitely nurse that lever along a little bit better, where you could come to gradual stop like this. So full stopping power is at the same place. It's just how you get there is a little bit better on Shimano, where it's a little bit more predictable, a little bit more gradual. The modulation is a little bit more natural. So I do feel that's better. Now, somebody else can easily come and say, no, SRAM is better. Look, I've ridden SRAM for 14 years. I'm not here to tell you and argue one or the other, just telling you what I feel out there. And then where SRAM access or ETAP, it's 100% wireless. The whole Di2 stuff, even with the 12-speed, it's kind of semi-wireless. It's not entirely wireless. Now, that may not be a problem. It's not a problem for me, because I have mechanic do all my bikes and maintain all my bikes. But you know, when you're in there with the modern day integration, you're fishing all the cables, having to use the magnetic thing to drag the thing along the tube and such. Maybe that's not your sort of thing. So when SRAM access is 100% wireless, except for the brake cables, maybe that's a little bit better for you than others. And then one final point that I'm still not sold on. if you get the same level group set, so for this argument, I'm going to use the Shimano Ultegra SRAM Force Access, both electronic, both 12 speed. When you get the SRAM part with the factory SRAM cork power meter, I believe that group set is still a little bit cheaper than the counterpart, the Ultegra, with the Shimano's built-in power meter. Now, I could be wrong there, but I believe if you go mano a mano, I believe the Shimano bits come out a little bit more expensive. So that would be another negative if you want to get nitpicky. All right, so that sort of sums up this episode on my divorce. It's not actually divorce because I'm still going to maintain a couple of bikes that I have with the SRAM Access 12 speed. Nothing wrong with those bikes. I still love SRAM bits, so those will still go on. But it's quite possible that more of my future bikes will now be equipped with the Shimano 12 speed Di2. Now, as to if you want why I keep choosing Force over Red and Ultegra over Dura Ace, which I've all ridden before. I've had Dura Ace before, I've had Red before, so if you want me to make an episode on that, drop me a comment and I'll be more than happy to. Okay, so that's it for this episode, you guys. I'm really happy with the way Di2 12 speed is running on my bike, and just super happy, couldn't be happier. That's it. I've been Diabetic Cycling. Thank you for sticking around, listening to my rambling. You've been awesome. Until next time, you guys all take care, keep the rubber side down, and absolutely be safe out there. I'm out.